Hello Internet, and welcome to another edition of Critical Q&A, the show where I answer your questions that you leave in the comments section here on my YouTube channel, or send to me by email. And I just wanted to comment really quickly before we get started here this show that this Going Clear documentary has now been running here for a few weeks. I don't think anybody really expected that it was going to bring down Scientology all on its own. That would be fairly unrealistic to think that a multi-billion-dollar corporation was just going to shut its doors because of one documentary. But it certainly has had a very good effect on the world at large, and it's changed the entire conversation as far as Scientology goes in the media. And for that alone, I am extremely happy with the results of Alex Gibney's and Lawrence Wright's work on that. And also another thing I'd like to mention about it is for people like me who were involved with Scientology really since I was 4 years old. I mean, I worked for the organization for 25 years, but I was involved with it for a very long time. And one thing that the documentary did for me is it provided a degree of closure on the subject, and by putting things in a certain way, or through the writing and through the testimonials that people gave, it allowed me to be able to come to a conclusion on certain aspects of it, certain emotionally and psychologically damaging aspects of it, and just be able to move on with my life. And if that had the same effect on other people out there, then I think it was certainly time and money well spent on the part of HBO and all of us in seeing it. And I think that's the best benefit I could have possibly asked for from it. So there you go. So let's get on with answering some of your questions, and I think you'll like some of the answers I give this week. Here we go. Jupiter's Dreaming. What an excellent video. I would urge anyone still in to watch it. There can be no harm in listening to someone who has actually been a Scientologist for many years give his perspective on the church. What I always find hard to understand is how any Scientologist can accept being told not to watch, listen, or read things that may challenge Scientology doctrine. Surely this is all part of gaining personal freedom, which is what Scientology is supposed to be about. How does any Scientologist reconcile that as a member? I ask because when I did the Dianetics course, I got downgraded for thinking for myself. I was told only to write what it said in the book. I instantly stopped doing any more courses because I realized that I was therefore not going to be allowed to be self-determined. And I saw this as hypocrisy, because I was told Scientology was all about making you more self-determined. All right, this is a very important question, actually, and one I've been wanting to address as a subject for quite some time, and that is the nature of coercive persuasion and belief, not only with Scientology, but with all cults, with all groups that engage in what we call coercive persuasion. And I actually made some notes on this one because I wanted to cover all the points on this fully. To understand why it is that a Scientologist or any other cult member, such as, the Jehovah's Witnesses, or, the Moonies, or, old Jim Jones, or the Branch Davidians, or any of these guys, why they get into this frame of mind that seems so strange to somebody who's not involved in that cult is interesting. It's a very interesting study, and really, I've said this before, I'm going to say this again, it really needs to be understood that it's not stupid people or morons or idiots who fall for this. It's very smart people, and in fact, in some studies, it's been said that the more intelligent a person is, the more susceptible they can be to falling into a cult thought process or thinking pattern. It doesn't have a lot to do with how smart you are. So let me just kind of go over this a little bit. And this is how it works in Scientology, and I'm sure this is how it works in other cults too. The way that you're reeled into these things is something personal about you is found by the Scientologist. Let's say the Scientologist is a friend of yours, a family member of yours, or you just walk in and you do one of their personality tests. Every one of them are directed to find your ruin. That's what they call it in Scientology, is your ruin, the thing that's ruining your life. And what they're supposed to do is basically, like, maybe it's that you aren't doing good at work, or your marriage is falling apart, or you can't relate to your kids, whatever the ruin is, or you just low self-esteem. Whatever it is, the job of the Scientologist is to convince you, in any way at all, that that ruin can be handled or dealt with or addressed through Scientology, because the founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, through his genius, discovered a way to deal with that ruin, and that's the hook. That's the thing that gets you in, and you go, really? There's something that can be done about this, And I've mentioned before, mine. When I was 15, mine was communication. I was very shy. I was very introverted, and I wanted to talk to girls. And this was the way to go about doing it. Is through this communications course that Scientology could offer. It was, it wasn't much money, and it promised to deal with that ruin. And I wanted that ruin handled. I really felt like it was ruining my life. So I did the communications course, and this is true of all the lower level beginning introductory services. They're based on common sense principles. They're based on things that everybody kind of knows, but you're focused and directed on the skills or knowledge you're going to learn out of this, and you get something out of it, just to whatever degree or another, and that's the hook, right? And if you don't get hooked on that, well, you walk out the door and they don't get you, but they're pretty good at getting you, and once you've seen that one part of it works, that it's true for you, as they say in Scientology, then you're in a more amenable frame of mind to take the next step. Not everybody does that. Some people walk into Scientology, do a course or do a service, and they walk right back out again. It's not 100%. But for those who stay with Scientology, well, what they did is they did that one step, and they didn't buy into Xenu, and they didn't buy into aliens, and they didn't buy into any of that stuff. They just bought into that first step. And then they take the next step, whatever that next step is going to be for that person. Could be a myriad of things. There's a number of services. 21, last time I checked, there were 21 different introductory courses that Scientology offered to deal with all kinds of problems of work, relationships, family, self, all kinds of things, right? And you could just take any one of these courses, and they have it very worked out. I mean, you do this step, and then this is going to be your next step, and then this is going to be your next step. It's not like they're struggling to tell you what to do next. They know exactly what to tell you to do next, and it costs just a little bit more than the last step. And so you go on this path. So you go down this line, and what happens is it's a series of agreements. You agree to the first thing. It's all good. You're not agreeing to space aliens. You don't see any space aliens around here, but you see a communications course. That helped. Then you take the next step. Then you take the next step. Anyway, you get the idea. Now, somewhere along the line, they're going to get you to start telling more about yourself. And again, this is any cult. You're going to share secrets. You're going to share maybe wrongdoings, things you've done that you aren't proud of, things you've done that you really don't want anybody else knowing about. But somehow there's a trust factor, and there's an acceptance factor, and this is very common to cults. Is you are accepted. You are made to feel welcome. You are made to feel safe. And so you're made to feel that it's safe to tell things to this trusted person. Hell, in Scientology, they even cloak it in ministerial, raiments and garb, and they have ministers in Scientology, and a minister is, you tell your confessions to a minister, and they're confidential. yeah, until you try to leave Scientology. But when you're in, you accept this, and so they will then help you. They're helping you, and you're giving over information to them that hooks you in even more, right? Just a little bit more, a little bit more. And all of this is being done with the idea that your best interests are at heart, or are the concern, that they're doing this for you, that this is all about you and your own self-improvement, your own growth, spiritual growth, whatever it is, right? So I think you get the idea of what I'm talking about here. Now, what happens is, and this is the thing where we're getting into this question, is like it says in the Going Clear film, Scientology is the alter ego of L. Ron Hubbard. All cults, any cult system, is sort of the alter ego of its founder. And what happens is you enter into a thought process, you start changing the way you think. And you start changing the way you look at things. You start changing your attitudes, your opinions, your ideas about things change due to the nature of what you're learning or what you're being told by other members of the cult. And this absolutely happens every single time with every single person who comes in and accepts Scientology, is they start thinking along the lines of L. Ron Hubbard. And if you want proof of this, well, here's one very, very touted expression in Scientology, one that's repeated often, which is, what would Ron do? What would LRH do, right? Ron Hubbard. If you're faced with some situation or some problem or some dilemma, you ask yourself, what would Ron do? And then you do that. Because, of course, Ron was infallible, or at least that's what his followers would like to think and would like to get you to believe. And so this mantra is repeated in Scientology, what would Ron do? And that came from L. Ron Hubbard. He's the one who said to do that. So finally, in terms of answering this question, the last bit of this, and this is the real twist, is the Orwellian nature of the words used in Scientology and in other cults too. Self-determinism, honor, integrity. In Scientology, they have something called a code of honor, which is literally a code. It's a list of things that you're directed to live your life by, and if you do that, it's supposedly it's totally voluntary. And if you live your life according to this code of honor, well, it's worded in such a way that it's completely acceptable for you to abandon your loved ones, your friends, your family, leave them all behind because you have honor or integrity. It's famous in Scientology. It's a common expression to say, well, it violates my integrity to do that, right? And they'll use that. They'll use those kinds of words, self-determinism, integrity, to justify doing things that have nothing to do with self-determinism or with honor or with integrity. They have to do with denying love, support, friendship from anybody outside of Scientology. So that's kind of how it works, and I've talked about that before, and I think it's worth talking about again, because that's how you can get into this cult mindset. And it's very shallow thinking to think that everybody in Scientology is just a moron or is just falling for absurdities, because they're not. That's not how it works. Now, I'm not saying that they're all a bunch of geniuses either. They certainly lack critical thinking skills and they lack common sense. That's very true. I did too. And I had to learn a lot when I came out of Scientology about the mistakes that I had made. But I'm just trying to, provide a little bit more information and so that there can be a little bit more understanding and a little bit more, compassion for the people who are involved in these things, so that because you're never ever going to get somebody out of a situation like that if you just call them names or tell them how stupid they are. That's never going to happen. So anyway, that's there you go. Spike Robinson. And I thought of another question/issue, non-Church of Scientology related, that I'd love to hear you tackle. In the pagan, earth-centered traditions, there's been some influx of some truly stupid mentally damaging ideas lately, such as the law of attraction, where everything, good or bad, that happens to you is due to the vibrations of your thoughts. And the even more sickening conceit that we choose our parents in some between-life station, which is a direct slap in the face to anybody born into adverse circumstances. Care to tackle the woolly thinking of the New Age sheeple? My simple tree-hugging religion is going down the toilet due to these infectious ideas. All right, well, in the critical thinking community that I'm familiar with and that I was introduced to, there's a term called woo, W-O-O, which encompasses all of this stuff. And then, by the way, Spike would also encompass all of your New Age tree-hugging think. I don't go that far. I actually I have tolerance for anybody's beliefs. I don't really care what anybody believes. I care what they do. And so in terms of your question, again, it's a matter of tolerance of beliefs. If somebody wants to believe that they're drawn to other people because they're on the same frequency or vibration as them, well, there's very little we're going to be able to do about that. I'll just actually kind of comment on belief right now, just because it's a good place to do so. I don't, like I said on my channel, I don't have any letters after my name. I don't have any degrees in any of this. This is just what I think and what I know from what I've studied. But belief is a funny thing to me. I think that people are going to believe things regardless of whatever you tell them or whatever you think they should or shouldn't do. Human nature is to believe. Humans are, we're kind of weak in the big picture. I mean, you put one of us in the cage with a lion, we're not going to be walking out. We're not. It's our intellect and our capacity for understanding that puts us at the top of the food chain. But there is still a very primal fear and uncertainty and doubt about who we are, where we come from, our place in the universe. And it is our beliefs that answer those questions for us, because let's face it, we don't really have lots of very solid evidence-based answers for a lot of these questions that people have. They want to know the answers to these kinds of questions of what happens when we die? Where did we come from? Where did the universe come from? These are big questions, and they're not well answered by the Big Bang or it all just always existed. Now, I'm not saying that those answers aren't true. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that not everybody accepts those answers or is satisfied with them, and they want more. And it's just in our nature to have those things. So they're going to believe what they're going to believe. I don't happen to personally believe or think that arguing with somebody about their beliefs or calling them names or telling them how wrong they are for having them is going to get you anywhere. Because belief is a choice, and belief is something a person has. And they're always going to have it, and it's going to be as unique as their DNA. They're just going to have their beliefs. What they do with those beliefs is what can be regulated and is what can be controlled. Because I don't care what you believe, it's not okay to run around, with a butcher's knife hacking up other people or going, Joe Jihad and killing all the infidels. That's not cool. I don't care what your beliefs are. It's not cool to be doing that. And that behavior can be regulated, and that's where I think we lose the arguments against. I say we in a very broad, general sense, because I'm not an atheist, like I've said, but I tend to gravitate in that direction more than I do, say, with a fundamentalist Christian or Islamic faith, fundamentalist. I don't go there. Anyway, my point is, I think we tend to lose sight of the real argument when we start arguing faith or belief, because by its nature, it's kind of inarguable. That's what I think. But I think that you can argue action. I think you can argue against doing things with those beliefs that are objectionable. And I think we should. I think we should be doing that. And I think that those are valid arguments that should be carried forward, So that's kind of where I draw the line in the sand on faith and belief versus action. So Spike, as far as your tree-hugging New Age religion goes, people are going to come in with all kinds of beliefs, and you can debate it with them, you can talk to them about it, you can maybe try to convince them otherwise. Like I said, arguing isn't going to necessarily particularly get you anywhere, but calm discussion about it, or reasoning about it, or listening and understanding, and then if they're willing to listen to your views on things. That's the only way I know of to change hearts and minds. I don't know how to do it any other way. You'll never force anybody to change their beliefs. It's literally impossible to do that. So there you go. J. Mazulowicz 1. Great idea for the new series. Your vast font of knowledge and insight is perfect for the Q&A format. My question has to do with the OT3 mythology. In accord with LRH's scientific findings, when a body thetan is audited off a Scientologist's body, where does it go? Does it fly around looking for another body to leech onto? Does it have a preference for Scientologists or WOG bodies? Okay, well, I actually went through some of the the confidential OT materials to see if there was any, quick answer on this. And I didn't find one specifically. However, here's what I can tell you. When I was in the church, I was actually told this by OTs, and so, as far as I know, this is the best knowledge I can give you on this. In Scientology, there's a concept of theta, and there's a concept of N theta, or interbulated theta. So theta's the good life force, and N theta is the bad, interbulated, messed up, screwed up, aberrated life force. And what you're trying to do in Scientology, according to the theory, with auditing, with the counseling, is you're trying to convert the N theta to theta, right? You can strip off the charge, you can strip off the past bad incidents and stress and bad emotion and all that sort of thing. You strip all that off, and the N theta is converted into theta. And the reason I'm talking about this is because this is what the OT levels are all about. In fact, this is what all of auditing in Scientology is all about, is changing the N theta into theta. And in Scientology, they talk about the theta-N theta ratio. And it's sort of this concept that on planet Earth, you have this mass of N theta, which, all of us are subject to, as sort of this black cloud that surrounds the world, so to speak. Not in a literal sense, but this spiritual force. And what you do when you go, as it's explained in Scientology, this is all according to Scientology. I'm not telling you this as though I believe this stuff, but what you do is, as you're going up the levels of Scientology, you are converting your own N theta that you carry around with you into theta, and therefore becoming more powerful because you have more and more theta life force to you, right? And you're more and more pure as a spiritual entity, or as a spiritual being. And the whole goal of Scientology is to get rid of all of the N theta, not just with yourself, but with the whole world, with everybody, with everything, all through the universe. Because, with this theory, there is a quantifiable amount of N theta. And what they're trying to do is tip the scale from the N theta being more, there's more N theta, they're trying to tip the scale so that there's more theta. And the way, again, as you move up the scale, as you move up the bridge to total freedom in Scientology, each successive level that you do as you move up, you're releasing more and more and more theta. They say, for example, the comparisons that are made are that at the lowest levels, before you're clear, before you've achieved the state of clear, if you can imagine a beach full of sand, and all the sand is all the N theta, you have a little beach shovel, and you're kind of digging the N theta and converting it to theta, right? That's how much you can handle at one time at the lower levels of Scientology. But as you move up and you get into the OT levels, the operating thetan levels, the higher levels, the confidential levels, the Xenu stuff, as you get into that stuff, then the comparison is that you're given a bulldozer. You get a backhoe, and then you get a bulldozer, and you're just like bulldozing all that sand, or you're bulldozing all that N theta in huge, huge quantities. for every unit of time, right? So whereas at the lower levels, it takes you 2 hours and you get a little beach shovel full. At the upper levels, 2 hours and you've cleared out a whole square mile, right? And that's the theta and theta ratio. Okay, so I've said all that so that I can tell you that the idea with releasing these BTs, these body thetans, is that you're releasing theta into the environment. Pure theta, life force. Theta is the term for life force in Scientology. So you're releasing all of these stuck, dead, or half dead, or mostly dead spiritual beings called body thetans, and you're making them into regular thetans. And those thetans can go off, and he doesn't really talk about anywhere that I've seen exactly precisely what they do, but since they're no longer half dead spiritual beings, you're basically saving the universe. This is literally what OTs in Scientology think that they are doing. They literally think that they are saving the universe by doing these procedures. So that's what they got going on, right? They view themselves as superheroes. And so the question of where do the spiritual, the BTs go? Well, they go get another body, but not another body to latch onto. They are now rehabilitated as spiritual beings. They're like you and me. They're alive now, and they can go and get their own body, and then live a life and live a series of lives, and hopefully, during some point along the line, there get involved in Scientology and become fully OT. So there you go. Billy Mathis. Love watching your videos, Chris. Well done. I found you due to my somewhat obsession with learning everything there is to know about Scientology. I've never studied LRH or his writing, but I find cults very interesting and perplexing. My question is more about faith in general. Do you think organized religion, whatever it may be, is helpful or more hurtful to our society? I think spirituality is important for our souls. I'm not going to tell people what they should or shouldn't believe, but from my viewpoint, organized religions are hypocritical and use faith to further their agendas and have led to the death of millions. I'm curious to hear what your opinion might be. Okay, Billy, so as far as my opinion on this goes, I agree with you. I think that there is a big, vast gulf of difference between an individual's personal, religious, or any other kind of belief that they have, and organized religion. And I don't like organized religion. And people might say or think that, that comes from some prejudicial viewpoint because of that I was ruined on organized religion because of my Scientology experience, or that I'm, biased about this or something. And there's probably a degree of truth in that. I can't say that I'm neutral about this. I got burned in the worst way you could possibly be burned by a religion, short of them, killing me. And that really sucked. And it opened my eyes to a lot of how the world works and how religion and nature of belief and all that sort of thing. So I draw a very clear line for myself between personal belief, personal spiritual beliefs, personal religious beliefs, and organized religion, where you get more than one person getting together. By definition, organized religion is more than one person getting together who share some kind of commonality in their beliefs and start dictating to people what they should do and shouldn't do because of those beliefs, and start dictating how they should behave, how they should act, how they should feel, how they should get up in the morning, when they should get up, what they can eat, what they can't eat, and literally who they should kill. I think that's I think that's psychotic. I think that's the definition of psychosis and insanity is to be dictated to as to who should or shouldn't be killed. Now, I don't limit that to just organized religion. I don't really go for that in terms of governments and military and all that sort of thing too. But this question is on the subject of religion and an organized religion. So I'm not a proponent of it. I don't think that it's brought more benefit than harm. I think it's the other way around. And I think history tells the tale on that. I think the historical record is very clear about the fact that that organized religion has brought disaster after disaster after disaster. I got nothing against the charitable activities of organized religion, against the disaster relief of organized religion, but I also think that those things can be done without religion just as easily and just as well. And I don't think it requires a belief in God in order to help your fellow man when his house has been destroyed by a tsunami or a flood or fire or whatever. You know, I don't think that that requires some kind of faith or belief in order to be of assistance. So that's, anyway, big, long, big, huge subject, short answer. So there you go. P. Capsivmar. Hi, Chris. There's a video somewhere of you and a woman in your SO uniforms getting out of a car and walking. I think this was during a raid on a Church of Scientology. Wondering what your thoughts were at the moment. Crazy MFers? Ignore them? Just a bunch of SPs? Wonder what they're so upset about? Etc. The video you're talking about was actually a clip that was shown in the very first video interview that I did in February last year when I was interviewed by Karen Delacarriere on the Surviving Scientology channel. Somebody had found and dug up a clip that Anonymous had taken of me showing up at the Seattle Church of Scientology. I think it was in 2009 or 2010 or something. And I was there on a project. I was there on a recruitment project to get more Sea Org members. And so I was in my full uniform, and I got out of the car with my project assistant, and we went traipsing into the org, and we were filmed by anonymous protesters who were there filming. It might have actually been in 2008, actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, they were filming, their protest, and they got me on camera. And what I was thinking at the time is, oh God, please don't come over here and talk to me. Oh God, I really don't want to have a confrontation with these guys, so we're just going to smile and walk right in the building. Because I didn't know what they wanted, what they were going to say, what they were going to do, and the only propaganda, the only information I'd received about Anonymous was that they were a bunch of goony, basement-dwelling computer geeks who, jerked off to porn all day and were paid by big pharmaceutical companies to go protest outside the church. And I was ashamed to admit that I kind of believed it. So that was what I was thinking was oh God, but I was going to put on a good face and just, smile and not give them anything to hook into or laugh at or make fun of. I was just going to be a good Scientologist and a good Sea Org member. So there you go. Auntie Diddy. Here's my question. Would you say that you were brainwashed when you were in Scientology? I mean the literal definition of brainwashed. If so, how were they able to brainwash you when you are clearly an independent thinker and very logical and analytical? I know you wanted to help people, but it had to be more than that. Okay, well, I definitely addressed a lot of this earlier in this video, but I will say that yes, I was brainwashed. And the term brainwashing is a very, very loose term. It could mean a lot of different things. So I'll say more specifically that I was the victim of thought coercion and thought control, which was done, in a very masterful way. As I explained earlier, I got hooked and I, went right in, and through the years, gradually accepted more and more and more of it until I was a true believer. And it took a great number of events over a period of time to snap me out of that. It wasn't just something that you one day go, oh, wow, this is all bullshit. It doesn't work that way. It took a lot of things to happen to me to snap me out of that brainwashing. So anyway, the answer to the question is yes, I was. And again, it doesn't require that you be a stupid moron in order for it to happen to you. It just requires a gradual series of agreements that you accept and agree to and fall in line with. And once you start agreeing, it's very easy to go down that road. So there you go. Tro 125. Weren't you in Minneapolis when the Ideal org there opened up? What was the thinking behind acquiring such an enormous building? A former museum, if I recall correctly. Didn't it seem suspicious when the org did not start filling up with thousands of public, eager to go up the bridge? I would think it must be very discouraging for a handful of staff to be rattling around inside a massive structure. So yes, I was on the Minnesota Ideal Org mission that opened up that building. In fact, I had been in Minnesota for off and on for over 2 years, working on different projects and missions for the Scientology there, recovering people to Scientology and recruiting people for staff at that organization. And then I was there for the central mission that opened up the org and was supposed to get the staff to all grooved in on what they were supposed to do and get them to get people in, which of course was a total failure because nobody really is interested in Scientology. But anyway, in terms of why they purchased a 90,000 square foot building in Minnesota, it's because it went on market and it was only $3 million. And for a building that size and seeming in a good location, it was not a good location for Scientology, but it seemed like it was, and it was sold as though it was. They bought it up and they got a really good deal on it at $3 million for that building. That was an amazingly good deal. Not all the churches get deals like that. Renovating that building cost an additional $11 million, if I remember right, which was not a good deal at all. Anyway, so when the building opened, it was empty and it stayed empty. And I used to tell the staff and then my mission guys, we were swimming in that building. It was huge. It was way beyond anything. It had like 9 course rooms that could seat 400 people at a time. It was ridiculous how big it was, given that there are literally 115 Scientologists that as of 2 years ago, that I knew of, active in Scientology in the entire 5-state region around Minnesota. 115 people, period. And that's like calling them all in. So, the whole thing is not about servicing people or getting new people in or getting new Scientologists. That has nothing to do with what that Ideal Org program is all about. It is a total scam. It is totally designed to do nothing but make money for Miscavige and increase the real estate holdings of the church and give the appearancy that there is some kind of expansion going on. It's pure PR. And give the IRS the idea that the money that the church makes is being reinvested in church facilities so as to continue the scam for a few years more. That's it. That's what it's all about. And it's pretty pathetic that after 10 plus years of this, that Scientologists are still falling for it when the evidence is literally right in front of their eyes. It was the Ideal Org program that convinced me, the failure of the Ideal Org program, seeing it right before my eyes, that actually convinced me that what I was a part of was a total sham. And it's what convinced me to get out of being in the Sea organization. And shortly after that, I found out everything else that convinced me to get the hell out of Scientology as a whole. So if it was obvious to me, it should be very obvious to a lot of other people. It should be very obvious to everybody. Some people are a little slower on the uptake than others. But I do know that there have been other people who have seen it and been discouraged by it and have gotten out of Scientology as a result of it, started asking questions, started finding out more. So, honestly, I say continue. Keep going, those Ideal Orgs. It's interesting, just as a point, one last point on this, there hasn't been a new one opened in, I think, over a year now. It's a pretty dead program. So we'll see what Miscavige comes up with next. Yeah. So with that, I am done answering questions for this episode. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for me at all about anything, and I really would like to expand beyond just the subject of Scientology. I am the Scientology answer man, but I would like to go into other fields and other subjects of critical thinking, logic, reason, religion, faith, whatever you want to ask. Send me your questions, put them in the comments section below, email them to me at AskChrisShelton@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to take them up. All right, thanks a lot, and thank you for watching.